What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel and welcome to my weekly Q&A video. If you're not familiar with the format of these videos, basically I'll get on one of my social medias at random, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, even down in the YouTube comment section, and I'll ask for your questions, and I sit here and I try to answer them and try to not talk for too long on any one topic, but I tend to ramble. If you know me, you know that that's what I'm all about. I like these videos because it gives us an opportunity to touch on stuff maybe in my personal life or maybe some struggles you have that I can give you maybe an answer to. I think it really helps us connect on a different level. With all that being said, guys, welcome to the video and let's get this show started. You guys ready? Let's do it! First question comes from Ken Jackson. He asks, should I eat back my calories burned from exercise? No, you absolutely should not. You should factor those into whatever your total daily energy expenditure is, because that should already be included there, and then set your calories and follow it. Too many people want to eat their calories back, and that's not something I recommend, because you start playing a dangerous game there, like, let's do 2 hours of cardio today so I can have a pizza later on. That is not beneficial. So just set your calories, stick with them regardless of exercise. Consider any extra exercise you do as extra credit towards your goal. Thanks, Ken, for your question. Josh Chapman asks, how do you reward yourself for hitting your specific macro goals? Reward myself? I'm not really sure what you mean by that, man. Pat on the back, I guess. Thanks for your question, Josh. From RevXAA, he asks, or maybe she, not sure, no matter who you are, everyone has low days. What are your main motivations to get through those low days? That's a good question. I guess if we're talking about a low day, you're talking about any day in particular where maybe I'm feeling depressed, maybe I'm being a little down on myself, maybe something in my personal life isn't going right with friends, relationships, whatever. I guess when I have a low day, I absolutely refuse to let that low day defeat me and make me not continue doing what I'm doing. If you guys have watched my channel, you know I'm right around 170 videos in 170 days. And there's been low days. There's been days when I don't feel like doing any of this. There's days where I sit and it takes me forever to get, ready to film and get all my stuff done, and I can just see this mountain of work ahead of me and I don't want to do it. The second that I don't go after my goals and the second that I let something like my mindset and a low day defeat me is the same time when either A, my competition's gonna pass me, or B, anybody that's ever doubted me, they have some ammo to fire back at me, right? And I don't let anybody have that ammo. So I love myself and I love what I'm doing far too much to let a simple low day defeat me, ever. It's all mindset. If you master your mind, you master everything else in your life. And you got to understand that as human beings, we have certain processes that happen in our brain that make certain days harder than others and certain days easier than others. But knowing that no matter what, that work has to get done, no matter what, that gym session has to get done, that food has to get prepped, adopting that type of mindset, that all or nothing mindset is the key right there. So how do I manage low days in a nutshell? I just treat them like any other day. I don't let any of that stuff get to me. Seriously, I don't. Thanks for your question. From Mike Free, he asks, do you notice a significant difference when lifting fasted versus eating right before a workout, pump/energy wise? That's a good question. I would say that for certain, I notice a difference. When I'm training fasted, I would say those are always great training sessions. I always have a lot of energy. I always feel like my workouts are really good. But when I'm training after a meal, I won't necessarily notice it unless it's like a high carb meal. So if I go and eat like pancakes and waffles and then I go lift, I really notice the pump increase simply because all those carbohydrates are readily available, especially in the form of simple sugars. If you've seen people consume gummy bears or dextrose pre-workout, that's why. It's because it puts those carbs right in your system for available energy and it really helps fill you out and give you a pump. But I don't ever plan my food around how I train. I just don't really ever do that. I always tell you guys that on high carb days, I try to get my gym session in no matter what because I want to put all those carbs to good use. And I literally don't notice the difference between eating right before the gym on a regular meal and going there and then not eating for 3 hours or training fasted. I really don't notice any difference. But high carbs right before, you definitely notice a difference. Thanks for your question, man. From Don Vickle, he asks, favorite video game of all time, ? And also, how long have you been training? Favorite video game of all time is gonna be either toss-up either between Halo 2 or Star Wars The Old Republic for PC, both amazing games I've been heavily addicted to. And then how long have I been training? I would say about consistently 5 years. Consistently. I trained in high school and on and off in college and stuff like that. Consistently, without stopping, taking no extended breaks, about 5 years. Thanks for your question, man. John Roddenberry asks, how often are you doing cardio? On the days that you do, are you going for time or intensity, high intensity interval training? I'm doing cardio right now between 4 to 5 times a week, 20 minutes of high intensity interval training, alternating 1 minute of high intensity with 1 minute of low intensity, alternating back and forth until I'm finished. Thanks, John. For Modern Fitness on Twitter, tell us, do you readjust your caloric intake and macros on a cut? Of course, I do both of those, but I don't do it until I notice that I'm not making the progress I should be making. So this week, for instance, my weight hasn't changed a lot, maybe due to the fact that last weekend I kind of had a cheat meal with Mother's Day and all that, and I kind of went a little overboard. I want to say a cheat weekend kinda. I had 2 days where I didn't hit my macros at all and I kinda ate way too much. So this week I haven't lost any weight. Now, instead of jumping in and dropping my macros right now, I'm going to hold off. I'm gonna probably go 1 more week on this current macro setup, keep everything as it is, and then watch my weight from there. If I notice that I only drop maybe half a pound or maybe a pound of weight, then I'll readjust and go. But the biggest mistake people make, I think, is that they drop their macros too low or they change them too often. There's a lot of people, and I've seen this working with clients myself, so I'll structure a plan out for them and they'll get like a weekend on it and they're like, I don't think I'm eating enough, or I think I'm eating too much. Can I drop my carbs even further to make this go faster? And it's a process. It is a total process. You got to give any diet or training plan at least 2 weeks before you can really see any difference. And realistically, 4 weeks on any set of macros or anything like that is the true gauge. Thank you so much for your question. From Blake Hobbs, he asks, while sick, do you still go to the gym? Depends on how sick I am. If it's a minor little sickness and I'm not gonna go get anybody else sick, then yeah, I always go. I literally can't miss the gym. To me, I'm like obsessed with it. And if I miss it, I feel like I'm like cheating myself in a way. It's really hard for me to take rest days too. Really hard for me to take rest days. It's really hard for me to even skip a day. Like even on Mother's Day, for instance, when I know I had all this work and stuff to do, I still went to the gym because I just can't not go. Now, if I schedule it out in advance and I plan around it and I work up all the way to it and I just make it my rest day, that's one thing. But to just be like, today I'm not going, that doesn't happen. Or I should say I don't allow that to happen. But if I'm really sick, yeah, you should always recover first. Recovery should always be the most important thing. But don't cheat yourself and sit there and be like, I think I'm sick, I'm gonna skip the gym, because realistically, you're cheating yourself and you're letting your excuses dictate whether or not you make the progress you wanna make or not. So many people make excuses in every aspect of life about why they can't do this, they can't do that, or why they should eat this and not eat that. But in the end, if you throw all those excuses out and you just be true to yourself and don't lie to yourself, you'll make the most amount of progress. Hopefully that answered your question. Thanks, Blake. From David, he asks, which sports teams do you follow? I don't follow any. I don't have time to watch sports. And I've never been a big sports guy. I played football in high school, but I've never been the type to watch sports. Literally, when guys come up to me, they go, did you see the Raptors and Hawks game? I'm like, no, I didn't. I don't even know what half the stuff means, to be honest with you. So yeah, I don't follow any sports. From Chris Nicholas FV, he asks, while you've been cutting weight, how different do you feel compared to when you're building muscle? That is a good question. That is a very good question. When I'm cutting weight versus building muscle, right? If I'm building muscle, I'm eating in a caloric surplus. I have energy for days. My lifts, I can go in there and I'm moving a lot more weight. I'm just crushing it in the gym. I'm not really getting tired. I'm not doing as much cardio, things like that. When you are cutting, you're in a calorie deficit. So your body is literally running on the fat on you for fuel, which is extremely taxing. To be completely honest, some of the big things you will notice is a massive drop in libido. No one talks about that. That totally happens because as your body is converting this fat into energy, it's shutting down non-essential. It considers that non-essential processes and really making sure your energy is being used for the most important stuff, right? And then an overall feeling of being just absolutely exhausted at the end of the day. Like when I'm bulking and I'm eating a lot of food, at the end of the night, yeah, I'm tired, but like I'm not exhausted. At the end of a day on a cut, I'll just be like sitting there. I don't even want to move. I'm like, there's a water bottle across the room. I need to go get it. And I'm like, I'll die of thirst before I get that. There's a lot of different stuff. And plus too, you get a little smaller, but then you start seeing the cuts and everything, so you don't feel as bad. There's certain days when you're especially going lower carb for a while that you don't feel like your pumps are as good and you're wondering if you're burning muscle and you're doubting yourself and stuff. Really, it's a mental game. It's a mental minefield to navigate. I've just learned through cutting for years and doing this whole process of bulking and cutting for years that you gotta master this. Like I talked about earlier in this Q&A, you gotta master this. This is your biggest ally, your biggest asset, but also your biggest enemy and your biggest roadblock when it comes to making gains and results, whether that's fat loss, muscle gain, whatever. This right here, you master this, you can do anything in this world you put your mind to. I promise you guys that. I promise you that. Thanks for your question. From Czar on Twitter, do you have any plans of opening your own gym? That is a good question. As of right now, no, but I do feel like down the road, that's something like if the money was there and I could invest in it, I think I could turn it into a decent little business / place for me to kind of relax and film more gym content without the fear of getting kicked out or anything like that, then yeah, I could see that being a thing one day, but right now it's not really on my priority list, but one of these days maybe. Thanks for your question. From Matt Tapp, he asks, how do you train your mind not to have any snacks, or how do you get full self-control that lasts weeks and not a few days? Thank you, sir. I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but man, it's all in your mindset. As much as I want to tell you there's some secret and I want to tell you that there's one thing you can do that's going to help without coming across as a jerk, getting your mind right and simply telling yourself no, because if you're telling yourself you're going to diet and then you're 3 days in and then you're binging on this and binging on that. For one, why is it in your house if it's a problem? And then two, you gotta have self-respect for yourself. If you're struggling with a weight issue, you're struggling with an issue of any sort, you have to love yourself enough to know that that stuff's not doing anything for you. And if that's your real goal, then accomplish that thing. Get it done. There's too many people saying they're gonna do this and not doing anything about it. Don't be one of those people. That is one judge of character that I have when I meet somebody. It's that if someone tells me they're going to do something and then they end up not doing it or not even trying to do it, I have lost all respect for that person, because in this world, with all this stuff we have around us, one of the only things you are held accountable to is your word as a person and your work ethic as a person. Both of those things define you for certain. So I don't know about you, but I don't ever want to be known as the guy that didn't work for what he's got and the guy that didn't put 100% of himself into what he was passionate about. So I'm just gonna say that you need to just do it. As hard as that sounds, just do it. And if you're on a good plan and you're eating stuff and you're doing what I do, like the flexible dieting approach, it doesn't really feel like you're dieting that bad. As much as at the end of the night, once I'm done with all my food, yeah, it's easy to go stare into the freezer and go, I could have an extra Halo top, but I simply don't, because my goals are far too important for that. Thanks for your question, man. And then final question from Drew Relaford. He asks, what do you do when you want to start a business in college, but you have no money? Well, that question, my friend, can be answered by finding a way to get money. If you're in college, you're going to school, but there's gotta be some free time there where you can do some sort of side job, where you can do something to make some extra money. When I started my business, I was working a full-time job at Sprint, was using that money to kind of fund this, and then money I made extra on the side, I was buying used video games on Craigslist and then reselling them on eBay, and boom, was making pure profit right there that I was able to then put into this business. Then once I started selling meal plans, training plans, got my website and everything set up, that money funneled right back into my business. So for one, start with an idea. You have to have a good, solid, concrete idea that you 100% believe in and you're not being fake or selling snake oil or anything like that. And two, find a creative way to make more money. Whether that's working a side job, mowing yards, whether that's babysitting, whatever you gotta do, you earn that money and then you save that money and then you strictly use that money to start your business. And the rest kind of just happens by chance. If you're positive, you put your best foot forward and you're working your butt off, good things are gonna happen as long as you're doing it intelligently and with the best of intentions. So thank you, Drew, for your question. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is gonna wrap up this week's Q&A video. Thank you guys so much, as always, for all your continuous support. If you wanna get involved in these, down in the description box below has the links to all of my social media. You can follow me on those if you don't want to miss out when I ask these questions. If you enjoyed this, hit that like button, leave a comment below for video ideas. I always love those. And thank you guys so much for watching. And don't forget to smile, remain positive, and pay someone a compliment, because you never know whose day you could be making better. With that, I'm out of here. This has been a Remington James production, and I'll see you guys at the next video. See you guys.